Hello once again. Welcome to Zephyr's BI and Analytics, where we learn by building BI projects. This is actually a continuation video to our sport finance reports. If you've not seen part 1 of the video, you can actually check on the channel. You'll find part 1 of the video. I'll quickly just leave the link to part 1 of the video on this video description. So, let's continue. So, in our previous report, part 1 of the video, we actually covered the overview and the profit breakdown. I know you can't see anything on my screen right now, so if you've been following up, you know I have to come to view, then come to selection. I'll just uncheck. So this is the overview we've created before now. I'll close this up, open the profit breakdown. So this is actually our profit breakdown that we've also created. So now I'll quickly just navigate to the report we're trying to recreate. So we are trying to recreate this profit, this is expense breakdown actually. We're trying to create the expense breakdown. So this is what we're going to be creating. I'll quickly just navigate back to the report we're trying to recreate and let's begin. I'll just uncheck this selection, right? Next, I'll pick, let's say we're picking a stacked column chart now. Yes, we're picking a stacked column chart. Is what we're using. I'll just expand. Next, I'm going to expand my dates table. I'll select the month. I think I'll go with the short month. I'll select the month. The next thing we need to do for our expense breakdown, I don't think we'll be writing any measure. We already have the measures we need. So if I navigate back to the report, what we need is the cost of goods, OPEX, then interest and tax. So I'll quickly navigate back to our report now. So what we need is cost of goods. We need the OPEX also. We already have this measure for OPEX. I think the only measure we don't have is the interest and tax. So we need to create that measure, which is basically we're going to sum our revenue, then we're going to filter to when the expense revenue or expense group is, that's the revenue or expense group is interest and tax. So we're basically saying we want to sum our revenue, right? Then we'll filter to when it's just interest and tax. So let's quickly write that measure. I'll come back here. I'll scroll up. Remember, we always stay on our measure table, so I'll just right click and say new measure. So this is actually interest and tax. I'll simply just say, like we've done before, calculate. What do we want to calculate? We actually want to sum. We want to sum our revenue amount, right? And filter to when the revenue or expense group is equal to interest and tax. Great, so I'll quickly just hit my enter button. With this, I've gotten the interest and tax. One thing I'll quickly do, I'll navigate back to table view, right? Table view. I just want to check the interest and the tax spelling to make sure I got it right. So I'll check. So it's actually interest and tax. I have to make sure this spelling is exactly what I'm trying to filter by. So I have to go back now. I'll go back. I'll check that measure once more. This is actually interest, right? And T is a small letter T. I'll just say and tax. So it's actually spelled this way. So the next thing I'm going to do is select our chart, right? Select our chart. I'll then drop the interest and tax. Yes, this is what we want, but remember, we have a slicer here, a month slicer, that is actually interacting with this visual we have here, which we don't want. So remember what we'll always do. We'll select the slicer, right? We've done this countless number of times. We select the slicer. We simply come to format, right? Say edit interaction. We don't want the slicer to interact with this because we're filtering by month already. We're visualizing this by month already. So we just uncheck and we're good to go. I'll go back, click on edit interaction once more. So with this, we're actually done. Let's quickly format this. I'll just come to format, right? X-axis, we don't need the title. For the Y-axis, we also don't need the title. So this is what we want. Great. So consistency is always key. Consistency is key with the colors. Basically, this is what we have here. This is what we have up here. We have our cost of goods color. We have the interest color, and we also have the OPEX color. So I'm going to select this chart up here, right? I'm going to select this. I'll come to bars, right? First, I'll just say for cost of goods, I'll just click more colors. I'm saving the color. I'll change this again to interest and tax. I'll just say more colors. And finally, I'll change it to OPEX. I'll just say more colors. I'm not selecting any of the colors actually. Next, I'll select my chart now, right? I'll change this to cost of goods. I know I started with that, which is the purple color. Next, I'll change this to interest and tax. Interest and tax is actually this one. Then finally, I'll change it to OPEX, which is actually, I think it's this, right? Wait. So this is, I want the color code to actually match with what we have up here. So we can actually ensure that consistency. So if you want to see the color code, I'll just make it open. This is actually the color code for OPEX. This is the color code for OPEX. If I change this to cost of goods, this is the color code for, this is the color code for cost of goods. So you see it clearly. And finally, for interest and tax, this is actually the color code for interest and tax. So with this we're done. We just need to give this chart a very good title. So I'll just navigate back to our reports. This is the report. Okay, monthly breakdown of, I'll navigate back to format, general, title. I'll just copy this title to be fast. I can then navigate back to the report we're trying to create, select, come to general once more, title. I'll just erase everything and paste what I selected. Then finally, I'll just say centralize. So what we have here is monthly breakdown, cost of goods, OPEX, and interest and tax. So we have it broken down already. The next visual we're going to be creating is actually still the breakdown, but we want to see the breakdown by, let's quickly navigate back to our report now. What we want to see the breakdown by the different subgroup, right? That's the expense subgroup. We want to see the breakdown by the expense subgroup. So we're going to be seeing everything we've done before now by the expense subgroup. So I'll quickly just navigate back to our report, right? What I want to do is I want to make a copy of this report, this visual. I'll just Ctrl C, Ctrl V. I'll bring it down here. Oh, we need to do the same thing again. I'll select the slicer, right? Format, edit interaction. I don't want the interaction with this. I'll just select back. Now for this, we actually want to visualize this. This is not what we want. I'll change this chart now to clustered column charts. Okay, this is fine. No need to panic yet. Then I'll uncheck short month. We don't want to visualize this by short month. Rather, we want to actually visualize this by, we expand the revenue or expense. We want to visualize this by the revenue or expense. That's the revenue or expense that's expense subgroup. Expense subgroup. Expense subgroup. So I'll take the expense subgroup. I'll drop it on the x-axis. So this is what we have. Interesting. Why do we have this? This is against what I had before now. maybe I'm reading the wrong chart, so let's come here. Yeah, so please kindly change the chart back to stacked column chart. Change it back to stacked column chart. Yep. So one thing you'll notice is I just have to extend it a bit. So what I'm going to do is, this is what we want actually. The reason I copied it is because I wanted to retain the color. I didn't want a situation where I had to go through the formatting process of trying to change the colors again. More like you select a new chart, a new visual, then you start formatting and changing colors. But now, since I made a copy from your existing visual, the colors are retained here. So I don't need to start editing and formatting all over. So what one thing we'll quickly do is just a few formatting, just come to format like we've always done. The x-axis, everything is done already. But I just want to reduce the size of the text on the x-axis. Yeah, to 8. So I can fit it in on the space I have here. Great. So the next thing I'll quickly do is come to grid lines. I'll turn them off. I don't want the grid lines. So basically, this is the second visual. Next, I'll just navigate back now. I'll grab the title once more, right? Come to format, general, properties, nope, not properties, title, expense breakdown, subgroup. I'll copy this. Navigate back to our report now. Select the visual, come to format, general, title, and I'll paste the title here. Great. So our expense breakdown is coming to light. We have just 2 visuals left. So those 2 visuals are basically matrix table. The first matrix table is actually showing the expense subgroup, right? Expense subgroup against the business line. So basically the expense subgroup, then the business line. So let's just select this matrix visual now, so you see what I'm talking about. So this is looking at the expense subgroup, business line, then it's looking at the OPEX, while this is looking at the cost of goods, and finally this is looking at the interest and tax. Remember, those are the 3 major expense. 3 major expense. First, we're looking at the OPEX. Secondly, we're looking at the cost of goods breakdown. Then finally, we're looking at the interest and tax breakdown across the 3 business lines. So on this view, you get to see the OPEX across the 3 business lines, the cost of goods across the 3 business lines, then finally the interest and tax across the 3 business lines. So we're going to be creating this using the matrix table. So I'll navigate back to our report. The first thing we want to see is the cost of goods across the subgroup and the business line. So I'll select the matrix visual. This is my matrix visual. I'll just expand. So what we actually want is, first, we want the business line, right? The business line will be on our column. So I'll carry the business line, I'll drop it on the column. Great. The next thing we also want to do, the expense subgroup will be on the rows. Expense subgroup will be on the rows. So we have the expense subgroup on the rows, while the business line on the column. Don't worry. Now you can actually see a lot here. You are seeing everything here, but what was going to happen now? So now we're only going to select the cost of goods. So I'll just check the cost of goods because I want to bring it to values. So immediately I check the cost of goods, you only get the expense subgroup for the cost of goods. So if I uncheck, you get all the expense subgroup, right? But immediately I add cost of goods, I only get the expense subgroup for just cost of goods. So this is what we want, right? Is this simple? Next, we just need to expand. I'll just expand this a bit, right? Then I'll come to this, expand a bit just to give spaces. I'll come here, expand the bit to give spaces. Finally, I'll just expand this to give space, and finally expand this to give space. The next thing we're going to fix is the alignment. So I'll just come to format visual. I'll scroll down to where we have specific column. I would just say I'll apply to header apply to total, scroll down and just say align center. So we're good to go. One thing I'll also do is come up here. I'll say column headers. This is the column headers, right? I'll just say align center also. So the column headers will be aligned at the center. So with this, we're actually done with the matrix table. The only thing we need to do is just add a little bit of conditional formatting. The reason why I added conditional formatting is just to draw the attention to the values we have there, just the high values we have there, so you can easily just spot the high values. So to do that, we just navigate back to our report here, right? Select our matrix visual, come to format, come to cell elements, expand. What do we want to do? We just want to on data bars, so I'll turn on the data bars. So this is actually the data bars we have, right? Data bars. Now I'll just come to conditional formatting, right? I only want to change this color. So one thing I want to do, since we're talking about cost of goods, I'm not so sure if the cost of goods color will fit in here, but let's go get it and see how it looks. I'll just use a normal conventional color. I don't want to use the same color because it's not gonna, the color is gonna throw it off. So I'll just select any color here that is going to, not going to alter our report that much. Let's see. We're talking about expense, so why don't we go for something around this color? So I'll just see more colors, right? Red. Nobody likes expense, so let's just use this shade of red. Nobody likes to spend money though, so I think we should just use this shade of red, or let's make it lighter. I think this is fine. This is the color code. We'll just use this. Yeah, I'm okay with this. The next thing I'll quickly do is select this, come to format, select the visual grid, right? Scroll down. Where you have border, I'll just change this border color. I'll take any of these white 50% darker. I'll just take that. Wait, so I think I'm okay with this. I'll just bring it down a bit. So we also need to add, do we need to add title? Yeah, we need to add title to our visual. So OPEX breakdown by business line. That's the title. I'll just come to format now, general, title. I'll grab the title. I'll make a copy. Back to general. I'll turn on the title and just drop the title here. Then scroll down and say align center. So with this, we're actually done with the OPEX breakdown by the business line. The next thing we want to look at is this the OPEX breakdown? Let's be sure. I think this is the cost of goods. This is actually cost of goods, not OPEX. My bad. So I'll just come here, change the title to actually cost of goods, COG. Yeah, this is cost breakdown by business line. The next thing I'll do, I'll just make a copy of this. I don't need to do this all over. I'll just make a copy of this. I'll bring it down here. Now I'm going to change this from cost of goods to OPEX now. Where's our OPEX? I'll scroll down for OPEX and select the OPEX. Great. So now we're looking at OPEX breakdown by business line. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'll just come to format, right? Scroll down, specific column. We're looking at OPEX. I'll say apply to total, apply to header, just align center, and we're good. Then I'll come to cell elements. I'll scroll down once more. I'll just say data bars should be on. Great. I'll click on the conditional formatting, positive bar. I'll just select this. That's 40% lighter. Click OK. I'll come back and change this to that color actually. I'll just select 40% lighter. So we're good. And finally, I'll just rename this. This is actually now OPEX. General title. This is OPEX now. OPEX. So on our expense, the last thing we we need to look at is actually the interest and tax. So I'll make a copy of this table once more. One more copy. I'll just bring that down here, right? Next thing I'll do is uncheck OPEX and replace it with interest and tax, which is just one row. Then I'll bring that down here. So same conditional formatting applies. Let's try something. If I select this and say format painter and I select this, what's going to happen? I didn't get to see the change I want. Are you sure? I'll select this again, say format painter. I think, oh, we actually made a copy, so the format has been copied already, so that won't work. So I can we only need to do just one little change. Specific column now, right? Apply to total, apply to header, align center. I think this is the only thing we need to do. Then finally, cell elements, scroll down, turn on data bars, and just come to conditional formatting, positive bar, and say 40% lighter. And we're good. So this will finally be interest and tax breakdown. So interest and tax breakdown. Okay, so with this we're actually done with our expense breakdown. We've been able to break down the expense. You see the expense by the months. You also see the expense by the expense subgroup. You get to see the expense by the subgroup across the 3 business lines we are actually operating. So with this, we're actually done with the expense breakdown. I'll just fit this here to be sure. Smooth. This should be at the middle. Okay. So we're good. Now, we actually have a navigation that goes from overview to profit breakdown to expense breakdown and finally to quarterly income and expense statement. So now we have the everything we need for the expense breakdown. Like we've done before, what we need to just quickly do is select these 5 visuals. And to do that, I'll just come here, highlight the 5 visuals, right? I like the 5 visuals. So once I've done that, I'll come to view. I'll say selection. The 5 visuals are already selected. So the next thing I can do is just right click and say group and group. So I have the 5 visuals already. I'll rename this now to expense breakdown. Okay, so this is actually so this is expense breakdown. I can now close my eyes, open my eyes, close my eyes, open my eyes. So remember, we're going to be using this bookmark for much more later. We're going to be using it for our navigation much more later. So now we have expense breakdown. If you want to see expense breakdown, if you want to see profit breakdown, this is profit breakdown. If you want to see the overview, this is the overview. And finally, we then need to create the quarterly income and expense statement. Ideally, what I had here as quarterly income and expense statement is actually another page which I also added to the navigation, but I've had a review on this and we're going to be creating a different table entirely. We're actually going to be creating the same table, but we're just going to be making a very few changes, and we're going to also be using adding this as a bookmark rather than have it as another page. So we just have one single page report but different bookmark navigation. So let's quickly navigate back to the report and see what I'm trying to say. So first, we're going to be creating our income statement. And for the income statement, we actually want to see the income statement on a quarterly basis, which is more like the total revenue on a quarterly basis. So to do that now, we're also going to be using the matrix table. I'll select the matrix. That's the matrix visual now. I'll just bring that here, expand, right? So what we need is, we already have sources of revenue. So if you come to what we have here, we have the different sources of revenue. So we want to see across the three business lines, the sources of revenue, what was our quarter to quarter performance. That's what we actually want to see. So to do that now, just navigate here. First thing we need is actually the business line. We need the business line. So I'll select the business line, I'll drop it on the row. That's one. We then also want to see the revenue breakdown, which is revenue slash expense subgroup. So revenue or expense subgroup will come underneath here. So now if I expand this business line, you get to see the revenue or expense subgroup. But now we're only interested in the revenue subgroup in this very section, because this is our income statement, revenue statement. So immediately I select total revenue and bring that to values. Once I check total revenue, you get to see it's filtered by only revenue subgroup. Only revenue subgroup. That's what you get to see. So now we have the revenue subgroup. The next thing we can do is then bring quarter. We then bring quarter. So what we'll do is go to our dates table, right? Oh, great. So I just discovered now that we didn't actually have quarter in our dates table, which means we need to navigate to our table view, right? And dates table. We need to add quarter to this table we have here. We need to add quarter to the table we have here. So I'll just add a comma here, right? Hold down my shift, press my enter button, and call this quarter. Right? So for quarter, we're also going to be calling on the format function. So I'll say format. What do we want to format? We actually still want to format our dates, right? But then we want to filter it to when it's just, we want to get the quarter from our date. And the quarter we actually want it to be either Q1, Q2, or Q3 or Q4. So to do that, I'll just type Q, right? And is it backslash now? I can't actually remember. But let's try. Let's say Q and backslash. I'll close this and hit the enter button. Awesome. So I'm getting 3, but it's not backslash. So let me try the other one, which is this. I think I can't remember. I've forgotten this, but I'll just add another Q. That's strange. Okay. I think what we need to do is bring the Q back here. I think so. Okay, we're almost there. Do we need to add another Q? Awesome. I actually forgot this. Most times I had the date code already written, so you just practically just go copy and paste. So, but this is actually how you get to put the backslash and 2Q. Then you get quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4. Yes, great. So you can also just put a comma here, right? Shift enter and just say quarter number now. Quarter number, right? For quarter number, just call on the quarter function, say quarter, then supply your dates. And we're good. Just hit the enter button. So we have one more column now, and that column will be quarter number. You can actually see now Q3, but what we have here is 3, which is actually great. This is what we're actually looking for. So once we're done with this, we'll navigate back to our report. So the only thing we need to do here is bring the quarter we just created now, that's the quarter, and drop it on our columns. So you can actually see we're just getting quarter 1. That's because our slicer again is filtering this. So I'll select the slicer, come to format, edit interaction. We don't want you to interact with this table, and I'll just click on edit interaction again. So you can actually see now that we have the business line Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. So I'll select the table now, right? Let's quickly format this table a bit. Come to format visual, right? The first thing I'm going to do is the layout and style. I'll just say this should be none. Let's see what happens. None. Great. Now it should be tabular. Yes, this should be none and it should be tabular. The next thing we would do is just insert blank rows. Okay, so this is looking more like our income, and that's our income statement now, right? So we come to values. So for the values, I'm going to leave that. I'll expand the grid, right? I'll just scroll down, expand the grid, scroll down, come to options. So this is where you get the global font size. Let's increase the font size a bit and see what happens. Okay, it's too big. We'll leave it at 10. But one thing we can do is increase the row padding a bit to 2. Okay, so row padding should be 2. Great. So I'll just scroll down and come to specific column, right? Scroll down again. I'll say apply to header, apply to total. I'll just say align middle, right? That's fine. I'll then navigate to column headers. I'll say apply to, okay, now align middle also. So we have everything well aligned. Well aligned. So we can just quickly make a shift. We'll make a shift. Sorry, I selected the table. I don't want that. So we'll make a shift. Create little spaces. Great. So what we have here is revenue/expense group. We don't actually need revenue/expense group. What we need to display there is just income group or revenue group. So I'll go back here and just uncheck, just delete this. This should be revenue group, not revenue/income, because only looking at revenue here. Income, just income, that's what we're looking at. Then rather than have this total here, right, this total, we can actually come here and say this is looking at our row now, right? Scroll down. First thing we'll do is turn off these icons we have here. That's these icons to expand. We just can put them off so you don't get to see them. I'll just move this a bit. Then for the row subtotal, rather than have total displayed there, we can actually remove total and just see YTD, right? Which is more like year to date, rather than have total. Oh, that's not going to work actually, because right now he's taking all the totals from this, and this, then final this. Okay, we can actually leave it at YTD, because this is actually this is quarter 1. Then finally we have the year to date total here, year to date. So what this is not okay. So I'm going to delete this. Sorry about that. I'm just going to say this should be total, right? This should be total. That's fine. But this should be YTD, because this is looking at the year to date. So instead of applying this to our rows, I'll apply this to our column. Yeah, our column subtotal. Rather than have total here, I'll just say YTD. Yes, YTD, year to date. So with this, we're actually done with our income statement. Next is the expense statement. To do that also, I'll select the matrix visual. Once I have the matrix visual, I'll just bring it down here. I will expand a bit, right? This should be looking at the total expense, so I'll just select my total expense measure. I'll scroll down also, expand my revenue and expense table. We want to look at the business line also on the rows. Then we want to break the business line down by revenue or expense group also. So once we expand from here, we get to see the expense group. That's the expense subgroup also. Now we have total expense, but we also want to break this down by quarter. So to do that also, I'll expand my date table and select my quarter and drop it on my columns. So we only have quarter one. That's because we have our slicer also interacting once more. I'll just select our slicer. I'll come to format, edit interaction, and say I don't want you to interact with this. Then I'll just select this. So one thing we can simply do, let's try this out again. I'll select this table, right? I'll come to home, format painter, and I'll just select this table. Great, so the formatting has been transferred to this table also. So we don't need to go through the process of trying to format this table to look exactly like the one we have on the left hand side. So we have the income statement and the expense statement also. We just need to give them appropriate headers. So this should now come and be expense group, not revenue slash expense. It should just be expense group. Great. Always remember to save. I'll just save this. Great. So we just need to do, what else do we need to do? I think this is just the end of it. This is basically everything. This is the end of it. This is basically everything. So we need to give this a title. I'll select the table and format general. I'll turn on the title, expand, and say this should be income statement. Right? I'll scroll down, centralize this. I'll then expand once more. I'll also select this and turn on the title, and this should be expense statement. I'll also scroll down, centralize this, bring it down a bit. Great, so we have the income statement and the expense statement. Let's see if we need to add any other formatting to this. I'll select, come to grid, to the border. For the border, I'll simply say, let's see what happens if we turn on the top. Okay, I think I like this. How about the bottom? Okay, I like this also. What else do we need? Do we need left? I don't need left. All right, I think I like this. So I'll do same for this. I'll just select top. I'll select the bottom also. So we have something like this. Okay, I think I love this. The income statement and the expense statement. We are good. Finally, the space we have underneath here, I'll just leave a very short summary of what is happening on the income statement and what is happening on the expense statement. So I'll make a small adjustment. I'll take this up a bit. I'll also take this up a bit. Then with a text box now, right? I'll just bring a text box here, yeah. And I'll go grab what I've written for the income statement. I'll also leave this on the video description so you can actually grab it from there rather than having to type all this yourself. So I'll leave it on the video description. I'll just paste this here, Ctrl A. Let's just increase, change the text type to DIN. increase the size to say 14. Is 14 too big? I think 14 is okay. Then I'll probably just adjust the formatting to make it look clean and neat. It's just a simple summary. It's not in much. Just a simple summary of what is happening up here. So I have something like this. I'll do same for expense statements. So I'll also get a text box once more. It's here already. I'll go copy what I have for the expense statements. Remember, I'll leave this on the video description so you can copy it from there. I'll paste this here. Press Ctrl A. Change the text style to DIN once more, and this should be 14. And we're good. I'll just make sure everything is in order. I'll expand this a bit. Okay. So basically, this is what I want. Very simple. Nothing much. So with this, we are actually almost done with the entire report. But remember our navigation. So what we need to do now is to select everything we have here once more. Select everything we have here once more, right? I'll select everything we have here. The next thing I'm quickly going to do is come to view, right? Selection. We have everything selected, so I'll right click, I'll group and say group. Now we can rename this group to income / expense statement. Great. So when I close the eye, we have nothing. I open, we have the income / expense statement. So this is great. This is great. So with this, one thing I want to do now is open the eye for overview. So we begin with the overview. Now this is our dates. That's our month slicer. We have February currently selected, right? I'll simply just come to format. I'll say slicer setting. I'll expand selection, and I'll say single select. The reason I'm saying single select is because I always want a particular month to be selected in this report. So for now, we have February selected. So you can navigate to January to select January. You can navigate to February to select February. So I would say I want to stay on February. I want February to always be selected. Okay. So we can start creating our navigation. And what I mean by our navigation, so we can actually move from overview to profit breakdown to expense breakdown to income and expense statement. So this is what we need to do. Let me just close the eyes once more. So everything is closed. Remember, we have overview, profit breakdown, expense breakdown, income and expense statement. The first page we want to actually see, on this stage we are now, with February selected, the first page we want to see is the overview. So if we want to see the overview, what do I then need to do? I'll just open the eyes for overview. Overview, this is what I want to see. Immediately I have overview. Overview's eyes open. I'll select bookmark up here. So you see your bookmarks here, right? So now we've opened the eyes for overview. We can see overview right now. The next thing we then need to do is say add bookmark. What is this bookmark actually called? This bookmark is overview, because overview is the only thing we can see down here. Remember our KPI cards up there, we want them exactly the way they are there. But now, down here, we want the view to always change when we select overview, profit breakdown, expense breakdown, income and expense statement. So below, the view is always going to change, but the first view we have is the overview. So we've created a bookmark when overview's eyes is open. So this bookmark should now be, we call this overview, right? Great. So we have overview. Now, what is the next page we want to see? We want to see the that's the profit breakdown. So for us to see the profit breakdown, that means we need to close the eyes for overview, right? And open the eyes for profit breakdown. So this is what we want to see for profit breakdown. So once profit breakdown's eyes is open, I'll click on add bookmark once more. So this bookmark now is what? Profit breakdown. Profit breakdown. So this bookmark is profit breakdown. So now we've opened the eyes for profit breakdown, but every other eyes, overview's eyes is closed, expense breakdown eyes is closed, income and expense statements eyes is closed. Only profit breakdown eyes is open. But now we've created a bookmark for profit breakdown. From profit breakdown, we want to proceed to what? Expense breakdown, which means we need to close the eyes for profit breakdown and open the eyes for expense breakdown. So this is expense breakdown. This is what we want to see. So once we've done this on this view, the next thing we need to do is click on add bookmark once more. So this should now be expense breakdown. So this should be expense breakdown. Great. Once more, we want to close the eyes for expense breakdown and open the eyes for income/expense statement. So I'll close the eyes for expense breakdown and open the eyes once more for income/expense breakdown. So this is our last bookmark. On this bookmark, what do we want to do next now? We now come and say add a bookmark. This bookmark should now be called what? Income/expense breakdown. Income/expense breakdown. Great. So we have 4 navigations with 4 different views. 4 different views. So let's practicalize this. While we're here on this bookmark, I'll select the overview. Everything changes to overview. If I come to profit breakdown, the view changes to profit breakdown. If I come to expense breakdown, it changes to expense breakdown. And finally, income statement, it changes to income statement. So I'll just simply select overview once more. Next, I'll select the selection here. I'll also unselect the bookmarks here. So this is what we have. So now we've created our 4 views, overview to income and expense statement. The next thing we need to do then is come to insert, right? Come to insert, on buttons, scroll down, say navigator. You want a bookmark navigator. You want to insert a bookmark navigator. So I'll select a bookmark navigator. Once I select that, I now have my bookmark navigator up here. This is my bookmark navigator up here. But I don't want this long 4 columns. So I actually want it to be in rows. So I'll come to grid layout, right? I don't want horizontal, rather I want vertical. So this is vertical. I'll just come here, expand. So this is what you get when you say vertical. I'll just click and bring this here. I'll bring this here. So I also want to change the shape. I don't want square. You can always change any. You can actually format this to whichever way you want. So I want to change the shape, and I want to say, okay, yeah, I actually want to leave it a rectangle, okay, but then I want to just add rounded corners. Let's say rounded corners to like 5. So rounded corners to like 5. Okay, so I think I'm cool with this. This is what I want. Now the reason you're seeing overview is shaded black. That's because we're actually on the overview page. Overview page is currently selected. That's why you see it's selected, it's shaded black. So if I hold if I hold down my control key and select profit breakdown, the view changes and you see that profit breakdown is selected. If I select my expense breakdown, you see that the view changes, expense breakdown. If I select my income and expense statement, you see the view changes. So I'll go to overview once more. So one thing we can do, let's say you don't want this black selection, this black here. So I didn't actually use black. So I'll select the bookmark navigator, right? First thing we'll do is come to style. Now, the style is going to look at the text in the bookmark. And the text in the bookmark, we have 4 different states. The default state, just the way we have it now. The on hover state, on press, and on selected. So the default state is what you have for profit breakdown, expense breakdown, and income statement. Income and expense breakdown. That's the default state because nothing is selected. I'm just hovering on it now. You can see that's the default state. On hover is when you hover over it like this. Then on press is when you click. Then on selected is what we have here now. Overview is selected. So let's say on default, this is on default, right? We're looking at the text now. The text on default, I think I'm actually okay with it, but do we need to make it bold? Okay, let's say we make it bold. That's fine. The fill, I actually want the fill to be black, so okay, so the fill is actually, that's the fill of the, is it the text now? Yeah, so let's change the fill. If you change the fill, you can actually see the fill now. The fill changes to ash color. That's on default. This is on default. When nothing is selected, the fill changes to ash color. So okay, so let's use a lighter one. Let's use this, or let's use this 20%. I think I like this. The ash color trying to tell us is not selected. But one thing I also do, I'll come to this text we have up here, this font color for the text, and probably change it to a lighter ash. No, this is not good. I'll make it, let's say 40% darker. Yes, so it's more like, so that it's grayed out. It looks like it's grayed out, right? It can actually, it looks like something that is grayed out. So that is what we want to save for default states. This is default states. So the border should be on. If you want to do any other thing, it's fine. The next thing I then want to do is change it from default and say on hover, which means when you hover over it like this, what do you want to see? So on hover, I want the text to increase a bit when you hover. So I'll change it to 12. So watch what happens now. This is profit breakdown. If I hover over it, you see it looks like something that is enlarged a bit. So you see expense, income, like that. So I think that's the only feature I want for on hover. Okay, yeah, for the fill also for on hover, we can say we want to change the fill to white for on hover. So when you hover over it, you see it changes to white, a little bit bigger. You can see the fill. Great. So finally, I'll just come up here and say, I'm not really interested in on press, on selected. So on selected, I think I'm okay with the font size. I want it bold. But now I don't want the fill to be black. So I can say I want the fill to be a different color. I don't know the color we're going to use now. So okay, so I'll grab a color code, right? I'll select this chart, this visual we have here. Come to format, column. I'll just select this color code we have here. I'll copy this color code. I'll copy this. Finally, I can go back to the bookmark navigator, select. Remember, we're working on style, right? On selected now, I would say the fill should no longer be black. It should be this color code we have there. Great. So you still can change the text from white, because the text for unselected is actually white, but I think I'm okay with white. So if I come here, this is what we have. You see, every other navigation is grayed out. Overview is selected, so you see the color boldly on overview, and it's trying to tell you that it's overview. So if I hover on this, you see what happens. So if I hold down my control and select profit breakdown, you can then see the view changes to profit breakdown, and you see that my bookmark navigator now, profit breakdown is selected. You still can go ahead and start filtering your charts. If you need to filter by a certain month, you see your KPI cards up here, they get to change and all that. So basically, we've created our bookmark navigator. We have our bookmark navigator. We can go to expense breakdown, hold down your control, click on expense breakdown, control, click on overview, you navigate to overview. So basically, I think this is the end for the report. We've come to the end of the reports. We've come to the end of the reports. We've come to the end of the reports. And you can then go ahead to add title to your report, right? Add title to your report, add maybe a certain logo to your report. You can add your LinkedIn logo here. I'll just rename this to overview, right? I'll save. So if you get to publish your report to the Power BI service, you know you don't need to hold down your control to select any of this your bookmark navigator. So this is basically the end of the report. I actually want to say a big thank you to everyone that has been supporting me on the channel. I recently just hit 1K subscriber, more than 1K actually now on the channel, and I want to say a big thank you to everyone that have subscribed so far, everyone that have been leaving a like and comments on the videos. I want to say a big thank you to everyone. I'm really grateful and I appreciate everything you guys are doing. And I hope this video was helpful. Watch out, subscribe, turn on your notification button for a more interesting video